Welcome to Critically Drinking, where we strive to set a higher bar for conversation every single stream. Thank you for joining us. Now, grab your drink, take your seat, and let us get ready for the show. Rashawn will be with you shortly to let you know what's on tap for the day.
There we go. Boom. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Critically Drinking. I'm your host, Rashawn, and I know I'm starting today's session a little bit early, but I do have a time concern that I wanted to make sure we respected. So let me just greet everybody really quickly in the chat. Quantum. Quantum's in the building. Hey, Quantum. Good to see you. Anagni is in the building. Hello, hello, early birds. Dury in the building, my God. The receipts. The receipts. Now listen, everybody saw the caption. Bravo with Sheila will be my guest, Sheila Ingram, counselor, pastor, definitely a wonderful orator, speaker. I've enjoyed her content, and thank you, Ane, for introducing her to me. For anybody who has not met her, I did put together something very small, very simple. I'm going to play this short video, and then we'll bring our guest up so that we can take it all in. One moment, everybody.
Disenfranchised grief is when a person loses something or someone in their life that is important to them, not important to someone else. It's important to you. That means if it's important to you, it's important to you, and shouldn't measure it, right, to be able to not grieve or grieve because what someone outside of the situation says, right? Their loss is not valued, right? My loss with my dog with certain people, it wasn't valued or recognized by other people. It wasn't valued. You know, they called it as nothing. They said it was nothing. It's just a dog. Oh my God. So the grieving is not considered to be what? Listen, socially acceptable way to process grief. I should not have grieved in that way, right? According to what people think. So the instances of disenfranchised grief is extremely subjective, right? And everyone's experience of grief different. No one has the right to force someone to move on if they're not ready yet, right? So the loss of a relationship or the death of a loved one, whereas another may experience grief, right, at the loss of an idea, a job, a hobby that was tied to their identity. Come on now. It can be a loss of something, right, a job, something you was connected to, and abruptly something happened and it was jerked and pulled away from you. That's a loss, an internal loss, but society does not recognize it or count it as important. So there are some scenarios where someone's grief may be disenfranchised. Let's look at this. The loss of, listen to this, an abusive partner or family member. I have counseled many women in domestic violence and DV, and it is so very hard to get them to a place of the separation of the abuse because that particular scenario and that person has become so wedged in their lives. Once they move away or run away or get away, it's a feeling of loss because they love that person even though it was a dysfunctional situation.
I just wanted to give a quick highlight to my today's lovely guest, Sheila Ingram. Bravo with Sheila. How are you today? I wish I had like a sound effect. But how
Where
are
the
you
sound
doing?
effect? Where the sound?
Yeah,
Hello, how are you?
I am well. So thank you for joining me today. I did again. Everybody, please forgive me. We do have a time concern. Thank you for the plug. There we go. I hear it. I know. Pastor Sheila, she said I heard. She hears the responses. She hears the
Yes,
responses from the other side of the screen. So I hear the hand claps. And what's up,
yes.
Yellow Peel in the building? I was listening to the disenfranchised grief. I listened to the imposter syndrome yesterday, and I know you said you might be getting back to that this evening.
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes,
I really enjoy the messages. I really enjoy Bravo with Sheila channel. But would you please tell me, because I know you have another couple of channels that I haven't been on yet. So there's Bravo with
I,
Sheila, which is linked for
yes,
everybody. But tell us the others if you don't
yes.
mind.
And there's the Sheila Ingram Ministry Network. It's at SI Network on YouTube, and that's the ministry channel.
That is good. I know Dr. Nakumbe always consistently calls you Pastor Sheila.
Yeah, but
Do
we
you?
don't have to do that.
Yeah, I just it's the title. That's what my next question was about asking you. What? How do you prefer to be
Just
addressed?
Sheila. Just
Just Sheila.
Sheila.
All right,
Yes,
perfect. All right.
that's
Well, thank
fine.
you. Thank you so much. I want to ask you a few questions about the counseling background because a lot of people come into the YouTube spaces. A
Hmm.
lot of people are, I guess, like couch credentialed, but you
Hmm.
are an actual counselor. You actually practice. Would you mind telling people about your background in counseling?
Okay, so let me give you a little backdrop because, counseling is a passion of mine and also something that's wedged in my heart. And the counseling actually started prior to me even going to school for it. It's just I'm called to people. And I would always find myself in places with as a young girl in high school, college, you name it, and people were just drawn to me as like a magnet, and I would begin to just share with them and talk with them, even as I was growing up as an individual being shaped. And I did a lot of work before I went to school for counseling. I dealt with substance abuse. I dealt with helping homeless people. I was case manager. I did outreach ministries and outreach jobs, not just ministry. Outreach in the homeless in New York City, from airport to airport, under bridges, in the in the deep of cold winter
Wow.
snowstorms. And so I began to counsel and learn the homeless by name, and I would
Wow.
share with them and find out how they got in that situation, because people always had this stigma about homeless people. Either they were drug addicts and, just labeling them. And so I found
Yeah.
myself doing a lot of things, dealing with people and speaking from my heart and trying to help people find their way back, because I believe that we all were born with a purpose, and something happens to offset us, that put us in certain lanes and certain places in life. And so there's no judgment here. And so I found myself really getting work and jobs with dealing with young girls, writing programs for young girls, dealing with young boys. I wrote a program, Saving My Heart for Girls, and young gents. And I just was doing things that always was surrounded by building up life. I remember adopting a class for 2 years in the Bronx in New York to help guide and talk to young people. Now, aside from that, I was singing. So my life wasn't just geared towards the secular counseling. I'm really a professional singer. My life started, was kicked off in the music business, right? I've been
Okay.
singing and loving music and living in the Apollo Theater in New York City every day, every weekend when I was a young girl. That's the magnet and how I was drawn to music. I knew that I wanted to be on a stage. And so my life split from music, as far as the passion in doing music, and then counseling. And so fast forward, as I continue to do these things and travel and sing here and do that, I always found myself talking, even in other countries, with a language barrier. I would have an
Wow.
interpreter next to me to share with certain women and certain people. They would just come and they want to share, and they were crying or whatever. And I would just talk with giving them love, understanding their situation and not judging them, and seeing the healing process. And so then I decided to go to school. I was a case manager in the Bronx, and everyone kept saying, "You need to go get a degree. You need." I said, "No, I'm singing. I'm just doing this. I'm passing through." They was like, "No, no, no. You need to get a degree." So I didn't really know which way to go. And then after years passed, and I was still singing. I was singing secular music. I had sang in every major club. I was living in Italy. I was doing all these different. Wherever I would go, I would find myself counseling or talking. Finally, I went to school, and then I got a lot of certifications with substance abuse, mental health diagnosis, DSM diagnosis, two diagnoses. I dealt with a lot of men who had MICA issues, MICA, mentally ill, chemical dependent, meaning they had a mental illness and they were homeless. So it was a
Oh.
double thing, trying to get them to take medication. So it was like I kept finding myself in those spaces. And I decided I said, let me just go ahead to school. And then after getting all these certifications and trainings, I segue, because still I'm singing. So I'm like in and out, singing, coming back, singing coming back. And so I didn't give myself time to go to college and get all of these PhDs or whatever, but then I knew that I was called to it. And it's a
Hmm.
difference sometimes when you have experience and book knowledge, right? I
Yes.
mean, the book knowledge is awesome, right? We study to show ourselves approved, but I had experience, so many years of experience, which in college they count those as credits. When you say I have life experience, they say, oh, well, you don't have to start from scratch. You've done this, you got people to vouch for you. And so that's how I became. So I became a licensed professional clinical counselor. And that's what I flow out of now, a LCPC or LPC counselor. And so that's what I do. I still have different trainings that I've done. Everyone's trying to get me to go to get my doctorate, and I'm like saying, I don't know, I'm kind of old. I don't think like I used to. I'm not on my feet like I used to be. And they're
Yeah.
saying that you need to just go ahead and finish because I do have both in, ministry as well as secular. I study both lanes. And
Okay.
so I have a master's in ministry and counseling. And so they're trying to get me, they're still pulling and poking, saying I should get my doctorate. So that's pretty much my
Dr. Sheila.
background in terms of the professionalism and what I do. But it started a long time ago and then it connected. I saw something where you were talking about purpose. And I was that show that you had, and it was very interesting. And I find a lot of people struggle with that, not understanding
Yes.
like what is it, like where do I fit, and
Yes.
I know I can do this, but is this what I'm supposed to be doing? So that's how I pretty much got into counseling and dealing with people with mental health issues.
That sounds wonderful. It feels like as opposed to a profession, like you said, like a lot of people fall into a profession, but like it sounds like you found your purpose. Your purpose and your
Mm-hmm.
passion were both kind of clear to you early on. So that's
Mm-hmm.
actually, I would say, that's like a blessing that you could
Mm-hmm.
see. Like I'm passionate about music, but there's
Yes.
a purpose here to heal
Yes.
people. So I
Yes.
like that. Mr.
Yes.
He said Yellow Pill in the and Mr. He said in the building, hello, hello, and I
Hello,
think Yellow Pill. I don't
Misty.
know if I greeted you.
Hello.
Good to see you all here. Uh, at the professional singing part, I know you
Mm-hmm.
on your platform. I've seen an interview with an author. I've seen you talk to somebody who made film. So your interviews run the gamut because there's even a young lady who's gone back to Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
What type? I'll say more especially on the Bravo with Sheila network.
Mm-hmm.
What types of content
Mm-hmm.
like spark your interest there? Because again, there's counseling corner. You've got the moving back to Africa. You have the music, the authors, and you see you. I would say the arts. You
Yes.
highlight the arts. You're highlighting the movement, and you're highlighting the counseling.
Yeah.
Where did those passions all come from? Like the Africa, and I'll say the
Yeah.
arts you kind of spoke to, but what made
Yeah.
you bring those together? I'll say that
Well, when I started, like I was telling you off camera, when I got the channel, I didn't know what was going on in these YouTube streets.
yeah.
I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I'm here now. And the whole point of, because I'm called to people, but I am called to women. That's a specialty of mine, from young girls to whatever. And I guess because I've gone through so much as a woman, and I'm not
Mhm.
stuck in any area in trauma, I've segued my life and segued and done the work on myself. And so I decided to have a channel, the Bravo with Sheila, Ladies Let's Chat. And because I wanted to really get women, get the focus of women, to get them from pain to power and from power to victory, by way of coming to the channel, hearing information, hearing different content. But again, I was new in the streets, right? And I didn't know if that was a niche. I didn't know if I was blocking myself in by just saying, ladies, let's chat. And then I woke up one day and I said, I need to take that off, because I don't want someone to say, oh, she's just talking to women, because I'm not just talking to women. And so I
Yeah.
kind of moved that out the way and opened up everything that's in me, that interests me, that can empower people. And then the part that you're saying, the different author and different people that come on, that's called spotlight. That's the Bravo spot where I spotlight an artist,
Okay.
or I spotlight. It's like giving them their flowers. I spotlight the unknown, but that's doing something wonderful. I give them their bravo, and I spotlight what they're doing and
I like
commend
it.
them. So that's the spotlight part of Bravo. It could be a lawyer, it could be whoever. I just think
Okay.
that we as a people don't encourage each other enough, right? And sometimes people, wish or think or they covet, this is the thing that covet, they wish that was them. And so they don't bring forth folk that need to just say, great job. I really salute you. And I really realize that people appreciate that. Not my platform, it's not an on the own network or anything, but it's from my
Hmm.
heart. And I spotlight them and tell them this is something you can have people come and celebrate you. So that's one area of the Bravo. So that's why I changed it to the
I like
network.
it.
And then I decided, I said, well, you know what? I had a co-host. She's still my co-host, and she's in her early 50s or whatever, right? So I said, I believe there's a people call to us, every one of us. I don't care if you're a child. You can see a child in the playground and see a crew of people around that one kid, because that something
Hmm.
about that one kid that draws the other kids to
That's
them.
true.
There's a people call to us. And so I gave Dawn B her night, which is Thursday night, and she is called Dawn B and Friends. And they talk about certain topics and things that I understand. But again, I'm not called to everything because I'm older and things have shifted a lot in the world, and and not just in the YouTube streets, but just in the world.
Hmm.
And being a believer, being in that Christian type of Christendom, you miss a lot of things that's going on in the perimeter in the
That's
world,
true.
right? That's why I always say you can't just be in a bubble. You got to stay woke. You got to stay, where you can be, acceptable to so much that's going on. So the Bravo channel, the music, like sometimes I'll open up with some of my music. I'll throw some music, mostly on my Christian channel. I'll play my music because I don't like to really make people feel, because a atheist could come, a Muslim can come, anybody
Yeah.
can come and feel the love. So I don't want people to feel neglected or feel like they can't come to my platform and understand what's going on. So that's why you see different twists and turns, and that's why I opened it up. The Africa thing, that young lady was
Yeah.
my cousin. She just moved there, and she had
Oh.
been going for the last 4 years, 4 or 5 times a year. I said, you might as well just go ahead and live there. And one day I woke up and I said, I really, really want to talk about Africa, because I'd gone to South Africa, I'd gone to Ghana, and from singing, the Lord has taken me through so many nations and so many different cultures, meeting so many different people. And my mind and my eyes have been open to a lot. So I want to share it. So
Yeah.
Bravo is really to empower, to enrich, to build up, to move you ultimately from pain to power and from power to victory.
I
People say,
like
well,
it.
what about your numbers? Well, the numbers will come. I'm about being on what I'm supposed, my assignment. I like being true to my assignment, because once I start thinking about, oh, I only have four, well, I only got 50, I only got 100, then I'm off my game, because my
Yep.
focus now is not for the people. It's about, oh, I'm competing. I got to get this. And I make sure I stay away from that. When it happens, we just notice that I'm almost at 500. We just noticed it, like it just went, I don't know, it was just
It's
three
happening.
something, now it's I'm 40 something, I think, away from 500, which is a good thing, right?
Oh
But I
yeah.
wasn't focused on it. So Bravo is really to empower, to enrich. And then I put the counseling corner. How could I not put the counseling corner on Mondays, some Mondays? Because that's a big part of me, and that's the part where we get to touch the heart of man. That's where we get to talk about things that not really are spoken about. I
Yes.
always say, if you don't identify it, you can't crucify it. Because
Yep.
I believe all of us got that thing. We looking for that. What is that thing in me? Why do I do this? Or why do I don't do that? And it drives us crazy because we can't find what the thing is. We can
Oh yeah.
feel it. So that's what Bravo is about. It's about all of that.
I love it. And you actually gave me an idea because this is essentially my version of a spotlight. You're somebody who I like to listen to. You're somebody who I love your energy. I love your message. I like the
Thank
platform.
you.
And so it's like this is, I guess, I don't have a. I guess bringing you to the. I guess it's critically drink. I'm bringing you to the main stage so that we can all
Thank
salute. Cheers to
you.
you. So cheers to you,
Thank
Sheila. So
you.
thank you for being who you are because again, your energy, your passion, all of that comes through when you're talking. So I'm definitely a fan. Willing
I
to admit that for
appreciate
sure.
you. Thank you.
So thank you. Also,
And
I want
hello to
to
the
ask.
chat. I didn't greet the chat.
Yes.
Hi, chat.
Hey everybody, and y'all, thank you for coming through. I want to ask you about your tagline. Your
Mm,
tagline. I would almost call it probably a mission statement, but it's definitely a tagline. When nothing changes, nothing changes. Can you tell me
mhm,
about what that meant to you? Like how you came to that realization? I know yesterday you said that was an important
mhm,
realization for you, and it's been something that
mm.
you've consistently
Yeah,
hammered home on your channel. Could you tell us about that? M Mills.
absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, Mills. Absolutely. You are so correct. That I've been saying that out my mouth for the last, I want to say, over 20 something years. And that means so much to me because that tag is what really shifted me to do what I needed to do to get to a better place in me and for me. I was in a marriage that was very, very toxic. And I kept trying to make it work and sticking it out and helping him go through. Now, he was a great guy, no infidelity, worked, everything, but he was so broken. He was so broken. And back then, I was dealing with some codependency, like I'm the savior, I can help you, because you have this
Mm,
a thin line between counseling and you have to have boundaries with it, right? Because when you're good at counseling and you have a heart for people, you people can take you way over the line. You can find yourself going too far. And so we have to learn boundaries. And this is how this when nothing changes, nothing changes. It had been 7 years of marriage, but 7 years of hell because he had such a drug problem. He would get clean for a year and do right. Then he would not back, relapse. Then he would get clean. Hi, Lady Navoa. He would get clean for 18 months and then come home and I would see it. I'm like, what
mm,
is going on? Finally, I found out what had happened to him, and it was such a deep-rooted issue for a man, right? It was definitely a whole lot of incest in the house, since he was a little boy, and it was 11 of them, and it was a whole dynamic of craziness, and he would never share. And I kept wondering, why do you keep picking up? And then one day I was like, I can't. I was losing weight. Was stressed out. I had surgery. I was in the hospital. It was really tearing me down. And one day I was talking with my brother, and he said to me, Sis, listen to me. He said, Sis, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
man.
And I paused. I was like, What? Those words sound so simple. But when
Yep.
I'm talking about they hit me. When I say hit
Mm-hmm.
me, I was like, I said, brother, he said, did you hear what I said? I said, yeah, you said if nothing changes. He said, something has to change somewhere. And I said, I got it. That was that light bulb. It went off.
Yep.
I had to release myself from trying to fix something I had no power over. I had to release myself from something I cared for, but that was killing me.
Oh,
I had to walk through the chatter of people about getting a divorce. I had to walk through all of this stuff, but all I kept hearing was when nothing changes, nothing
nothing
changes. And that was
changes.
20 something years ago. And I decided to go and talk with someone to find out how am I in this relationship. I'm business, I'm well to do, I have, it's not like I was even begging God. I said, God, just tell me I'm the kind of girl that need a man. And he was like, nope, that's not you. Because just tell me anything so I can see what's wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find the answer. And then eventually, when I went to talk to someone who didn't know me, began to share, and then I began to see the change. That's when I shifted. When I dealt with me and I sat in me and I turned the finger on me, regardless if it 90% was him and 10 was me, 10% can corrupt anything. Women
That's
think, oh,
true.
it's all about, no, he's 90 and I'm 10. That 10%, depending on what it is,
Yeah.
can supersede that 90%. And so we always have to take care of ourselves and turn the finger because when you change, everything around you changes. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the good of you, and then sometimes it doesn't, it changes for people that have control over you and they don't like the change. So for my husband, he didn't like the change. because I got free. He wanted me to
Mm.
still stay under that constant craziness. So that change, you're gonna suffer. Somebody's gonna suffer. They don't want to let that grip go. And so nothing changes. When nothing changes, nothing changes. I will say that forever. And it sounds so simple, but when it hits you, you be like, so you know personally what you need to change, right? I know my thing. Everybody can take that and run with it for whatever it is that they need to change. Their
Hmm.
change may not be my change, but there's a change needed in all of us.
Yes, I like it. It reminds me of a better. I would say a there's a I would say I don't know what, like a parable. There's this the phrase everybody likes to say. If you keep doing the same thing
Hmm.
and expecting different results, that's insanity.
That's
Everybody
insanity.
likes to say it, but the way you say it, it makes you think on it enough to come to that conclusion on your own. If nothing
Yeah,
changes, nothing changes. Well, if I don't,
yeah,
if I keep doing the same thing, I'm
yeah.
going to get the same results. If I
Yes,
want
that's
different
good.
results, I've got to. So I like the way it's
That's
like coming
good.
at it from a different angle. So I
Yeah,
like that. But it
yeah,
makes you do the work of thinking through it because it's just saying the same two words back to back. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. But again, the mental work for people that that have the ear for it, they'll
yeah,
hear.
yeah. The
I
desire
love
to want to be better, right?
yes.
The desire to tweak the things we need to tweak without the voices of others and, coming in our head to dispute what we know we need to change. It's
Hmm.
not easy admitting, things about yourself, especially if you're public, because I've always been a singer and I was always a public kind of figure here in New York. So for me to walk through certain things publicly, somebody else could be going through the same thing, but they're closed behind doors and no one will ever know.
Mm, that makes
They don't
sense.
have to walk through the public stuff. So yeah, it's deep.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot. I do want to ask you a little bit because again, just everybody forgive me. I know I typically do like 2 to 3 hour streams, but we have a time consideration today that I want to keep respectful. So we have about 50 minutes left. So I'll be ending this stream right around 4 p.m. Eastern time. So I want to get right towards the meat of this the topic.
Hmm. Hmm.
A lot of the theme, everybody. I know I have Thanos, the picture of Thanos' daughter Gamora on the thing. I'm not going to get into a lot of the what I want to call that, the metaphor from Marvel. I'm not going to get into a lot of that. I'm just going to ask the question straight out. Um,
Okay.
I am going to set this one up with a long intro. But in the Avengers
Okay.
franchise, Thanos is known for
Okay.
wanting to bring balance to the universe by removing half of all living things. A lot of people because we're talking about the gender dynamics and we're talking about ambiguous loss today. A lot of men themselves are seen to themselves. They're the hero. They're the good guy. And right now to women, they're the villains. And vice
Hmm.
versa. The women to themselves, they have to be our own heroes. We got to lift ourselves up. And the men are the agents of evil. The gender war, like two sides continuously trying to snap each other away. They've even made that like a thing. What if men were snapped
Hmm.
away? How would you survive? If women were snapped away, they've even made that a thing. If I think we're doing that though to try to snap away the discomfort of having to live and work through the issues that we have, even within
Hmm.
ourselves, hoping to find some magic combination that can wish away the hard work that we have to do to find true balance and true harmony. You did a stream that I caught, and it was, I promise y'all, I put this in the description. Her stream on ambiguous loss, Sheila's stream on ambiguous loss. I put that in the. I was in there. I had an allergic reaction. I had no idea how much I had been dealing with ambiguous loss
Hmm.
and didn't have a word for it. It was just
Hmm.
a feeling that always felt like a weight. Until I was in the chat listening to Sheila and she was talking about ambiguous loss, and I was like, I feel that way about almost everything in my life. And the way I live my life is to try to prevent myself from becoming attached to things so that I don't feel that loss anymore. And I think that's why that message was so meaningful to me that day. Could you tell us a little bit more about the concept? And I'm going to try to tie it into the gender war thing. But if you would not mind telling us
Yeah.
about the concept of ambiguous loss.
Well, the core of it, the ambiguous loss is, it's about the lack of resolution. It's about the lack of resolution and being with someone, a thought, a job, a person, and they're still with you. They have not passed away. It's different from someone passing away and you can have closure. You know, we go to funerals, things happen. We at some point have some type of mental picture of closure. But ambiguous loss is kind of the opposite in a sense. Ambiguous loss, for instance, is someone who's dealing with an illness, and that person was in your home and they were healthy and everything was fine, and they were diagnosed with something, and they slowly slip away. They slip away from you emotionally. They even slip away from you physically because they began to withdraw. And now you're with a person that used to be vibrant and you've totally lost them. That person now does not respond to you or anyone the way they used to. It's a loss. But a lot of times people don't understand that people in that situation deal with that type of loss and have no one to recognize that they're going through this because that person is still alive. If someone gets kidnapped and you don't know if they're alive or dead or deleted, I should say, that's a loss with no closure. You could have an animal, a pet that, like for my situation, she was with me from 6 months and to 14 years old.
Ooh, long
And
time.
she was a teacup Yorkie. I live alone. She was my company. She was my thing, right? And when she passed away, I lost it. But no one looked at me with sympathy or to call, oh, your dog passed. Now I'm a wreck because that loss, and I saw her slipping away from me day by day. She was not the same little dog. She was not the same, little person that I knew. So I was
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the loss and it wasn't recognized at all. It was almost like I was guilty for grieving, like I was guilty. God bless you, red lipstick. War and acts of terrorism, natural disasters. There's so many. You could have a grow up. I had someone that was in our house growing up with us, and that person left. They didn't die. They left. I was distorted. I was like messed up for years and couldn't identify what I was feeling. It was a depression, but it was the loss of that person who still was breathing, still was moving, but wasn't in my presence. This happens in a domestic violence case. Yes, it's domestic violence. Sure, it's DV, but that person have come united and meshed in with another individual, another life, a spirit to spirit. They've become one, and they can't break away. And then that person leaves abruptly. That trauma of breaking away, even from a dysfunctional relationship, is a loss because that person is still alive. How do we get resolved? Who's going to help close that up when no one's noticing it? Even take it deeper. How about drive-bys? How about women that had these drive-by, these dudes that come and do these drive-bys in the middle of the night, and no one, absolutely no one knows. Hello there. No one absolutely knows that they having this sort of entanglement or thing going on in the middle of the night. The friends don't know, family don't know, but you seeing this dude or this girl for years, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden that person leaves you, or they just
Yep.
ghost you. They just
Ghosted.
ghost you. And now you, in this little secret type of situation, is dealing with the loss of this individual that you really can't talk to nobody about because it was on the DL. It was one of those, I shouldn't have been with him type things. No, regardless
Mm-hmm.
of all of that, the person is dealing with the loss of the person. How do you get closure? So what happens to people like that, and they spin into another relationship that still have residue from that relationship? No closure over there. They bring that into this new realm, into a new life, into a new man's life or a female's life. And then that's where all these other things start spinning out of control. Because if we don't get closure, or if we don't get the opportunity to grieve, not because you say I shouldn't, you should just embrace the fact that that's where I am. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what ambiguous loss. And I can read two types of ambiguous loss. The type of ambiguous loss refers to a psychological loss, including a mental or emotional, like I said, disappearance when someone's personality has changed. Alzheimer's,
Yeah.
right? Parents, older people, Alzheimer. And what's the other one?
Dimension.
Dementia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like your parent is right there. The vibrant parent, used to be in the house and doing everything, and you slowly see them slipping away. You've lost them. They're breathing, but it's a loss. It's an ambiguous loss. I have a friend who said something out loud the other day. She said, "Why doesn't anybody say anything about this ambiguous loss?" Her husband got diagnosed with cancer, stage 4
Mm,
now. Been in and out, been in and out, left the hospital, rang the bell, went home, came back, and again. But he himself, as a man, has deteriorated. His
yeah.
teeth is gone. He's withdrawn. And he was a flashy kind of guy, Gucci this, that, and other. So he was really, strong about how his appearance. And she's the wife. And look at now, she's dealing with this, and no one is paying attention because he's still breathing.
Yeah.
But it's a loss because he's gone mentally and emotionally. It's deep. And I don't know. People don't really, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this
No.
because these are one of those things that you and I mentioned that a lot of times when we're going through certain things, I don't want to say traumas, but let's say life, when life be life, and right, when
Yeah.
life be life, and we going through certain things and we can't really put a finger on it, and we know I'm not in deep depression, but something's wrong, something's off. I can't really put a finger on it, and you're living in this space, you don't even get the understanding of what it is. And I know for me, if I can't put a finger on it, it drives me a little crazy. I'd rather cry or laugh. I'm not the kind of woman that could be in the middle. I ain't no puppet. Can't swing me
Yeah.
left and right. I want to either know or don't know. Then I can deal with it and get through it. But this is a real serious situation because I know it touched your heart.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm avoid talking about the specific thing because I'll get emotional quick. My
I
emotions are
understand.
right there under the surface. But I know my nephew. For me, it was the childhood of my nephew. That was a very powerful time for me to be in his life during that time. But there are other things such as career
Mhm.
paths, things that you've had to give up. Like you said, life be life, and the transitions that we just face as we naturally age. I can't physically do the things I used to do. Things are just
Mm.
more of a struggle. So even though I was always a heavy guy since I would say middle school, I can't do everything I used to do. So
Mm.
sometimes there's that loss of who you were. Like you said, the gentleman that went through cancer, I can't dress the way I'll never look the same. Your hair may change color or fall out. There's the person who you identified yourself as can
Mm.
come in a
That's
lot of different
real talk.
ways.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's
so
real
so
talk.
it when you said that, I was like, I've experienced this in so many ways that
Hmm.
I think it's like a compounded hurt. And I think a lot of people probably have left careers that they thought that
Yes.
they would be in for their life, or lost the parents, or
Yes.
they had the child in the home and they thought, I always saw myself as a mother, but now my kids have moved out. I don't even know what to
Yes.
see myself as anymore. I've lost
That's it.
that role. So how do we
Ooh.
like fix that in our, like, how do we treat that or talk to that in ourselves?
I think what you said is so powerful because there's so many layers to this, like the loss of a job, right? The loss of a best friend. I had my
Oh
best friend. I
man.
mean, like I spoke to her last night after a long time, but I mean, the one who, when I was sick from operations, wiped me, fed me, took care of me, and they retired, and her husband moved them down to Charlotte, and when she left. Woo! I never even imagined that
Yeah.
I would go through that.
Yes.
And so a job, having a great job and getting a pink slip, they give you a little severance thing, and then to work through it is to identify it, right? Like how we're talking now, it's amazing. Like when you talk things out, you be like, "Ooh," and you ever had like a good cry, and you avoided crying for a long, long time because you didn't want to go that deep. Like I could think about my mother and be like, don't take me there. Because I don't want to see her in the casket. I don't want to, no, no, no. And then there's those moments where you just need to have a good cry. And that cry is a release, right? But then on the flip side of that, we have to have safety nets. We have to have safety people that we can talk to, a safe place, a safety net. You can't just share certain things like that with people because people count it as, oh, that ain't nothing. What? Man,
Yeah.
People are so insensitive because they're not wired like you. They can count it as, why are you tripping? That's, that ain't nothing. My such and such, that happened to me. Well, go get another job. No. Yeah. And even as you get older, like you touched on, like saying you can't do some of the things, like time waits for no one and it is swiftly moving. I think the man upstairs done cranked up the clock a little quicker because it seemed like the day go by so fast. The month goes by quicker than when it's just moving. And I think about like me getting older. That's something that's a reality. I had to tell my daughter the other day, she went, Mom, I said, listen, I said, my lens is different now. It's different. And she had to pause. Like, what do you mean? I said, how old am I? She says, so that bar, I said, it's not a bother, it's a reality check. It's a realization. Hi, Mandrell. It's a realization that time is moving, right? And so that loss of what you just said, things that, not if I coulda, woulda, shoulda, but in a sense that, we've just allowed time to leave us or lose us. So that loss that you feel, each one of us, whether people want to recognize it or not, can identify with ambiguous loss. Waiting for a husband, waiting for a wife, having a relationship with someone you thought was the one. You just would have bet everything you had because you put time in, 5 years invested, and all of a sudden something shifts and that person is gone. They're not dead, right? Remember, we're talking about ambiguous loss. Ambiguous loss is still physically around. What do you do with those feelings? How do you recover and go forward? And so we have to talk about these things. We have to identify it, to crucify it. Just like, that imposter we talked about last night. There's different types of imposters that come to throw us off our game. Because the goal is to get us to a place where we can't function. We can't move or we can't think right. Oh my God, I turned this off. I'm live. So I turned it off. So, talking about it, because remember we was talking about the imposter syndrome last night. We said it's not about counseling or going to a therapist. It's about sitting with yourself, reminding yourself of who you are, what you've achieved, what you've accomplished. And it is okay for someone to validate what you've done instead of saying, no, I'm a fraud. That's not really who I am. Yeah. So this ambiguous loss, when you were on inside the chat, and I felt you so strong because as I'm talking, I'm feeling what I'm feeling because I'm human. Forget the counselor. Let's take the title off. Let's take the pastor title off. Let's talk just about Sheila. Counseling is what I do. Being a pastor, that's what I do. Who I am is Sheila. And sometimes we get titles all meshed in between the person, and then you really don't know who you are because you allow people to create this whole expectation of who and what you're supposed to be and do.
I like that. When you were on your stream yesterday, somebody called you during your stream too. So I have this clip because this is something I used a long time ago, and it's just stuck in my little inventory.
And I turned it off.
I'm gonna play this really quickly.
Stop calling me when I'm live. I'm gonna block you. Stop calling me when I'm live. You're not more important than what I'm doing. All right? Stop calling my phone when I'm live. I don't like that. Coon, calling me when I'm live.
Yesterday when it happened, it made me think of that clip. When it happened to you yesterday.
I like that. I do. That's so cool. I like it.
Live. It's not important to what I'm doing, but I wanted to ask a question based on what you said.
Yeah.
And again, I may or may not tie it. Let me just speak to everybody that came in. Lady Novoa, Mandrell, Rico, Red Lipstick, Dr. Nakumbe, as Dr. Insight and Perspective, and Bree. Hello to all of you, each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. Um, I wanted to ask a question based on what you said because I believe, like I think we have because we don't have language for it, like ambiguous loss. We don't have a way to process, like understand it. We feel it, but we can't understand it because we didn't have words. So what I feel, like before I had words for it, before you gave me a language for it, I started changing my life to avoid that feeling. I knew to try to like keep everything at a distance to avoid the feeling, oh well, if I get too close to this, I'll lose it. If I become friends with them, they're going to move away, or they're going, if with work buddies, they're going to get a new job, or I'm going to get a new job. And I started changing the way I operated to avoid the loss that hadn't even happened yet. And I believe there's in the I would say I don't want to, I'm not even going to dive too much into the gender stuff because I just enjoy the ambiguous loss conversation. I feel like it's possible that a lot of people are operating from a place of trying to avoid something that's ambiguous, but it's a loss that they're trying to avoid. Like a lot of men in the gender space are fighting against, well, they may divorce me or they'll take away the kids. So this a lot of them are not married and don't have any children, but they're worried about this ambiguous, untimed, it hasn't happened. It's not been set aside. There's not even a potential of it yet, but they're worried about this loss that hasn't happened. So I feel like they're moving from the same space, and I think even some of the women who are like, I'm not trying to, I won't. I'll say a lot of men complain about single motherhood, but I think a lot of times people are worried about their window of opportunity to become a parent closing. So I'm worried about the loss of the potential to have a child. So I'm making my decision to have a child now. I'm not preparing. I don't really even know this person I'm having the child with. I'm trying to avoid this loss of opportunity that's going to come. I know it's going to come, but I don't know when. I don't know how. But I'm trying to avoid that feeling at all costs, no matter how it sets me back. I think a lot of us are operating from that deficit of ambiguous loss without having language for it. I think almost like a lot of the stuff we complain about in this sector is
That's
from that
good.
sense, hiding from the fear of that loss without knowing how to identify it. Hey,
That's so
Apex.
good. That is so, so good. That is so, so powerful. And it's so true. From the point of it's like a double-edged sword because refraining from it and having fear about something causes you to possibly lose totally because you won't move forward because of the thought of what's in front of you or the thought of what is behind you because you've experienced it. So for those who didn't experience what you're saying, they're like, okay, let me just go ahead and get this done. I don't need to be in love. I don't need no wife. I'm just going to do this because this is what I want to do. For fear of even look how it blocks you from even making commitment
Yeah.
because of what could be or what could happen based on sometimes what you see around you and what people around you experience. So you also looking and mirroring what's happened to say five of your friends, six of your friends with, measuring what might happen to you based on what happened to them. So they just say, nope, let me just do it this way. Because let me hurry up and then based on also when someone has lost a
Hmm.
relationship, like we just said, spent time with someone and it didn't work. What's going to happen to that male or that female for the next go round, for the next person that may be the one?
Yeah.
They're already saying, nope, I know what that felt like. I know what I'm still feeling. I'm not messing with it. Let me just tamper with it. Let me just touch on it. Don't let me
Yeah.
commit to it because I can't stand the loss again. That makes, oh man, that is so powerful. And you're right. And the spaces, even a lot, like I'll say again, these YouTube streets, which I'm new to in a sense. I mean, I'm going on year two, but I never knew, ever
Never knew.
knew what I was getting myself into. I'm just gonna get a channel. Yeah, right, Sheila. Look, boom, landed right here. And I learned a lot, right? I
Yeah.
have learned a lot, but I've also heard a lot. especially with what you're talking about, the men and women and relationship and the reluctance on both sides to embrace just love, to embrace, let's just try, to embrace, let's forget about what I did do or didn't do. Let's try to make this work. And a lot goes into that. I know that. But life be life in so much, Sean, that we have to learn how to take layers off on our own because there's
Yeah.
too many layers we come with to the table with. It may not be trauma, but there's still layers. There's still layers of residue of certain things, certain people, places, and things. And it's not easy to kind of pull that stuff off. And it's kind of hard to segue through it if you can't talk about it and trust somebody with you. It's a trust thing. Who do you
Definitely.
trust? How do you walk through it? I think that is so powerful what you just said. Everything that you're saying, even the fact of how you said the loss of the job and people can't identify that. Some folks is like, oh my God, right now saying that's what I was feeling when they cut me, when they gave that promotion to her or him and not me and let me go. They thought it was just deep depression only.
Hmm.
But when you don't give it a label, if you can't say, oh no, this is what this is, okay, let's see how I can navigate through it. How can I help myself? It's just, it's a lot.
If you're feeling the loss of something, and I know a lot of people, a lot of us don't speak to the things we feel hurt by because we don't like that feeling of vulnerability, or like you said, there's not people that we can trust our feelings with. A lot of
Hmm.
us are stuck in relationships, friendships, family ships, all of these
Yeah,
relationships that we don't have trust and safety in.
right.
How if we don't have that, and let's say for whatever reason we don't have access, or we like feel like I don't need to go talk to anybody, how would you suggest somebody to begin the process? I know you said speaking to yourself earlier, but what does that look like? Like if I'm feeling like I lost, and I'm gonna make it something trivial.
Okay.
Let's say there's a content creator I've been watching for the last 6 years, and they had a YouTube platform, and they just got fed up and they left. But it was something I did twice a week, every week for the last 6 years. It's become a part of my life. I'm embraced in the community. We in the chat. We had inside jokes. That's become a real relationship for me. It's digital,
Hmm.
but it's real. And they quit. Now I'm
Hmm.
hurt and lost, but I can't talk to anybody. Nobody in my life knows about this channel. It was something I did in my spare time, but I'm feeling hurt.
Hmm.
I'm not going to go to a therapist for about a YouTube channel. I'm
Yeah,
not going to go to a therapist about a content creator. My best
yeah.
friend doesn't understand why I was even watching this stuff on YouTube anyway. They don't watch YouTube. Get outside.
Hmm.
What do I say to myself? What kind of language do I say to myself to even begin like dealing with that loss?
I think one of the things that can happen is you can I- identify, if you can identify what it is that you feel you've lost inside of that relationship, not the channel so much, because obviously the connection was with the person. So, what was it in that major connection from that person? Even if you take away the channel, it's still the person, the communication, the relationship. What are you feeling that is missing that that person took with them that is no longer with you? Is it companionship? Is it, I was able to tell you the truth and you didn't judge me? What exactly am I feeling? It is a loss, but what thing or things is disconnecting me to feel this great, great loss I never thought I would feel? Because you're my YouTube buddy. I don't even know you, but I do know you. So do I reach out and say, you know what, man, we built such a relationship. I just want to check on you, see how you doing. You might just need to hear their voice. You just, you can go past the
A
barrier.
comforting voice.
Yeah, because that voice did something for you and to you. It was
Yeah.
enough for you to feel the loss. There's some other channels that could go away that you're familiar with, and they bye bye, and this bye bye was nice. Hey, see ya. But this particular person that we're talking about, it was more to it. Then the relationship wasn't just about the channel, it was about the connection. And if that's the identification, then that's what the loss is, because the person is still breathing, right? But it's still a
Okay.
loss. So for me, if that was me and it was that type of connection, and I had that kind of rapport with this person, I'll be like, wait, I gotta find them on IG. I gotta do something. Say, hey, what's up? How you doing? Listen, I miss you. What's going on with you?
Yeah.
Man, I've been such and such. I've been messed up. Oh, I'm so glad I reached out. How can I help you? Because it may be something they need from you
Mm.
because of the relationship.
Wow. Okay.
Sometimes we look at it as because it's in this box, this way it started. That's what it is. God said, this is real. This is a real connection. This is a genuine thing here. So I would think that's how I would think about it, figuring out exactly what I feel about the Lord. Do I miss his company, his jokes? Because he must have made, when we're talking about it, he made me feel
Hmm.
good. Every time I would rush to see it or talk with him. So I think going beyond the barrier to find out more about why I feel what I feel. And it could be because that person needs to hear you more than you need to hear them because of the relationship,
I
if that
like
makes
that.
sense.
No, it makes perfect sense to me. It took me a long time to learn the difference. The thing that people say: you get out of it what you put into it, and
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying basically is you may have these relationships that require you to be more active than
Mm-hmm.
passive. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people will sit back and be like a voyeur, a viewer to their own relationship. They'll be a
Mm-hmm.
passenger to the
Mm-hmm.
relationship as opposed to a driver. And you're saying
Exactly.
even from the chat or even as a viewer, people may be stepping away. I mean, hypothetically, people may
Mm-hmm.
step away because they didn't feel your presence because you didn't invest. And you're saying, I'm going to be active in this relationship, even if it's virtual, and I'm going to make sure you're okay. If there's
Mm-hmm.
anything I can do from my side, I'm going to be a driver on that. So to me, it
Mm-hmm.
makes perfect sense because I had to walk through that process myself.
Yeah.
You don't get,
Because it
it's
meant
hard.
something to you.
It meant something to you. Yeah, and I tried to make it something silly, but that's the next, because I use that word silly, that's on me. I want to ask you: is there anything that's too silly to feel a loss over? Is
No,
there
because it
anything? Is there
depends.
anything too
I
small?
don't think so. I think it depends on the person. Because what's important to me may not be important to somebody else. What charges me up may not be what charge you up. It may be the smallest thing. It's like you can't measure what is meant. You can't measure people in that way. At least I don't think you should, because people are different and we're complex people. We're fickle people. One minute we feel this, the next minute we feel that, right? What's important to me may not be, I mean, I like chocolate ice cream. You like sprinkles and vanilla. I don't think your sprinkles is stupid because you're 50 and you want sprinkles with some syrup. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a kid's ice cream. No, it's not. It's my ice cream. I want it this way. I like licorice. I still like licorice. It's my favorite candy. I'll go and try to eat it all, a whole pack. Like, man, that was what you ate when you was little. It's not good for you. Well, I want some today. And this is something I feel a loss when I see that candy.
Mm,
I feel a loss because I haven't bought it. I haven't had it. So nothing silly. That's like people
yeah.
say sometimes, I want to ask you something, but it's really silly. Hi, Mrs. She said, I want to ask you something, but it's silly. No, 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 I better not say it. Why do people do that? Because they know how other people respond to things that's not important to
Mm,
them. So they got to set it up in case of the rejection, or in case they prepare themselves to hear something like, no, I don't want to say it. You do want to say it, or else you wouldn't say you want to say it, right? That's why I say it's always important to be around people where you can just be yourself. If you want to be a little boy, be a little boy. If you want to act like a little girl, because there's a little girl in all of us, and there's a little boy in all of men. Okay.
I like that. That was insightful.
Hmm. You know,
Nah,
it's because,
definitely.
and I know, that's a good question, because people, they hold back based
Hmm.
on what they think someone's going to think about them, what they say or don't say.
Yes.
It's ridiculous, right? And it causes people to refrain from being themselves.
Yep.
No, that's silly. No, no, it's not. That's how you feel. Oh, okay, well, let me tell you, this is something silly I thought too, because it causes a whole opening of trust, of being
Yes.
totally yourself with someone.
I like everything because it is, as you were talking, I'm listening. I'm like, if we could be more, I would say receptive. 'Cause I know, like we train each other to do that. We train each other to preface that what we want is silly. We diminish our own wants and needs. A lot of us do, not
Yeah.
everybody. A lot of us diminish that, but we're trained to because a lot of us treat us with diminishment when we come with
True.
our wants and needs and feelings. So I like what you said. I want to just greet New Growth, Old Soul in the building, B9, Nizzle, and Mrs. She Said. All three of you, thank you for being
Hello,
here.
everyone.
Hello,
That is
hello.
so wonderful, Arshana. And when you said that, it reminds me sometimes when I tap into some of these lives in the YouTube streets, and they have like big panels, and sometimes I'm there to support. I go even if I just hit the thumbs up,
Hmm.
right? Or I'll direct someone there. I think that's a level of support, even if I'm not active in the chat, because sometimes if I can't lend something to the conversation that I think is going on at that particular time, I'll just support by being there, listening and growing sometimes. But then there is moments when there's been just what you said, the panel is talking and it's going smooth, and one person says something that someone, man, that's stupid, what you just said. That's real dumb. Then it changes the whole dynamic of the panel because what was said was now you're making a person feel, well, a person can't make you feel a certain way. What they said, tends to shift things because how you felt what that person said, and it's supposed to be a collective. I've seen that so much on a lot of panels where it just goes left by one thing, one word, one person, one comment, and it just shifts the whole dynamic of the conversation and
That's
what
all
the
it
topic
takes.
was. They off topic. Then the person's trying to stir it back to what you want to stir it to because we don't have enough respect for each other to allow people to just be.
Absolutely. I'm going to get a couple of comments because get your
Okay.
flowers. I love how at Bravo with Sheila is so relatable and compassionate. Bravo. But Dr. Nakumbe, thank you for saying that. Love that, Bravo with Sheila. That collaboration and normalizing the word silly with the person you're speaking with. And that's definitely something I think we could do better at. Just because we don't understand something doesn't mean it's stupid or silly. We just haven't investigated what the person means a lot of times and what it means to them. What it
Mhm.
means and what it means to them. I think that's really important. Can something be defined as silly without being dismissive? I have stressed over stuff and my homie said that's silly and I got over it. And that's a matter, I would say, of knowing people's sensitivity. That's
Mhm.
your friend, so he knows what level of sensitivity you can handle. And a lot
Mhm.
of times, I would say in spaces like this, we don't know each other's sensitivities. A lot of us are coming to these conversations as strangers. I know this is the first time I've spoken face to face with Sheila, so a lot of
Mhm.
we don't know our points of pain. We don't know our
True.
sensitivities. So yes, I do think some things can be silly if you know the person if you know they're making something bigger than they even feel themselves about it. Like
Mhm.
you can correct somebody's perspective if you know them well enough. But sometimes I think a lot of us try to correct somebody's perspective to our own and not to their own. And to correct it to their own, you have to know what their perspective actually is. And your
Mhm.
friend would know that about you.
That's
So
true. The relationship.
that's definitely a thing. I know we have about 15 minutes left, so I kind of wanted to shift out of the ambiguous loss, but I want to say, was there anything else you wanted to talk about with ambiguous loss? Because the last few questions I kind of want to ask are, like, we're going to slowly slip into the gender space. I want to ask a few questions about how you've
Okay.
experienced, because you mentioned it a couple times on your show
Okay.
yesterday, and you mentioned it a
Okay.
couple times today. But any last thoughts on ambiguous loss, or any points that you wanted to share, or any advice, tips, anything?
Well, with ambiguous loss, I just think certain things when you bring awareness to it, you know, um, when you bring awareness to things to be able to identify what you might be experiencing. There's a scripture in the Bible that said we perish for a lack of knowledge. When we educate ourselves on spiritual things as well as secular things, worldly things, we are informing ourselves so that we can have a cushion to understand when things land on us, we can identify, oh, that's what that was, or that's what that is. Life is gonna continue to life. Every time we wake up, if we're blessed to wake up and put our feet down, something's going to knock on the door. And I'm not talking about a good thing, I'm talking about the evil one, to try to distract you, to try to bring up tape, to try to bring things to your mind. You ever woke up and you just went to sleep fine and you woke up and next thing you know, you wake up feeling heavy. You don't know why you heavy. You don't know what you're feeling. You're just feeling heavy because of the spiritual warfare. I don't want to get into that. But what I'm saying is ambiguous laws and any things that we're dealing with, period, is going to always be trying to chip away at us so that we can't be our better self. So we are responsible and accountable to ourselves, our actions, our caring, taking care of our self-help, our mental health, and not allowing people to rob you of your joy and tamper with your peace, right? Because see, if you want to see Sheila face turn a little bit different, don't tamper with my peace. Don't tamper with my peace,
Absolutely.
because without my peace, I can't get through the day in a good way, right?
Mm.
So I have to guard my heart. So people need to guard their hearts. People need to recognize what they're going through, what they're feeling, and find out how can I get past this? Who can I talk to? What can I do to get this feeling? Like you said, don't allow the ambiguous loss situation to block and stop your growth, because it can work like that as well, because it'll cause fear because you experienced something last year and lost it, or something like we talked about Alzheimer's and people dealing with illnesses and they're dying right in front of your face. You're losing them because they're losing themselves. How do you deal with that? We have to recognize, and when we know someone is going through that, reach out. How you doing today? Because I find that caretakers always get overlooked. They always ask, how is the sick person doing? How is that person? Oh, how they getting along? But they never say to the person that's doing the work every day, how you doing? So we have
Mm.
to acknowledge people in whatever space they're in if we really care. So just keep helping yourself mentally, mental health, keep it in a safe place, keep your space and your tribe positive, and that'll help you get through, because it's all about trusting who you're around.
I like that, and it actually made me brought me to another question I have, and I want to ask you. There may
Okay.
not be language for this, but I want to know your thoughts. You said you have to protect your peace, and I
Mm-hmm.
know my mother, when I talk to her, she's one of those people that developed a sense of peace and faith as well, and
Mm-hmm.
she has to maintain that. It's important for her. And I
Mm-hmm.
know some people whose most important thing that they have to hold on to is hope. If I lose
Mm-hmm.
hope, I lose everything. For
Mm-hmm.
me, I have to feel a sense of fairness, equity.
Mm-hmm.
I have to feel it. It doesn't have to be balanced like equal, but it has to be to a point that I can tolerate. My tolerance of unfairness or inequity, it's there. I can take like a 70-30, but when it starts going like 80-20, 90-10,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
start to get ramped up. Is there a word or a phrase or a study, a lane where you help identify people's like most important like values, like their core values? Like you said, peace is probably something that you value most, that
Mm-hmm.
you have to maintain it. And I think everybody has something, and I think everybody's is different, but nobody taught me, so I'm going to assume nobody taught a lot of other people how to
Right.
identify what that core trait is or feeling that you have to hold on to just to cope.
Right. That's good, because we all are breathing, we're all human. And hi, Candidate. We're all going through, for me, right? Because I always use me for an example, and in what my experience, it wasn't always that I had peace. I know what it's like to not have peace on the inside based on what I've walked through in my life, right? And it's been complex. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. So it has not always been peace. But for me, my peace, as you spoke about your mom, is my prayer life. My peace is me being quiet and sitting in the morning and centering my being, centering myself, checking in with me how I'm doing on that moment, that day. And I began my prayer life, right? Because I mean, there's not too many people on these streets don't know I'm not a believer, but I always say I'm a balanced believer, right? I'm not in the Christian bubble, right? I ain't up in la la. I am balanced, and I understand how I keep my peace, and it's through my prayer time. It's through my quiet time where I can just sit. Sometimes I don't even utter things out. I just sit with worship music, and I just sit, and then I just get centered. And the thing that happens with people losing peace or not getting peace sometimes is the busyness of our lives. The busyness. As soon as we get up, the text, the phone, the this, the that, the coffee machine, the this, the that. And you didn't send to you. You didn't even deal with you. You didn't even say, hey, what's up, you? You know, you got to apologize to yourself on how you handle you. You got
Mm-hmm.
sorry self. I ain't handle you too well today. You always apologizing to other people. How about apologizing to yourself? And so for it's the centering and bringing, because some people know, most people know what it's not to have peace. And then when you
Right.
do find it, it's like, oh, you can just, ooh. A lot of times I will breathe in, and then consciously in my mind, I'll blow out fear. I'll breathe in, and I'll blow out that burden I'm feeling. Literally, I'm blowing you out of me because I feel the heaviness. So we have to take time with ourselves and take a moment to center ourselves, whether you pray, whether you're a Muslim, whether you're a Christian, find and tap in, because the world is not going to give you peace. The world will not give you peace because it's too busy with all types of other things going on. So I know for me, it's my prayer life, it's my prayer time, just being quiet or praying, talking to the Lord, saying, this is where I'm at, God, just like I'm talking to you. This is not feeling too good. I need you to show me, give me a sign, send somebody, show me what to do in this situation because I feel uneasy. And I'll sit quiet. And you'll be surprised sometimes when you give you the time you give other people, when you give yourself the time that you give others, give that time, some of that time to you, and get
I
centered
like
and feel the peace. Just let it happen. Don't look for it because it's going to happen once you just sit in that space. It's going to come to you because you're connecting with it.
I like that. Shout out to Candidan. Saw you tap in.
Hi, Candida.
It sounded like when you were saying it, it sounds like the most like the way through yourself you had to identify the thing that allowed you to breathe easier. Like throughout the troubles
Mm-hmm.
of life, you just had to find the thing, and for you, it was your peace,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
mechanisms that help you gain that peace, like prayer, solitude, a little bit, talking to yourself, having grace, even with the way you spoke to yourself, and giving
Yeah.
yourself the same love that you gave to other people. So, like that was your mechanism towards internal peace.
Because that's the foundation. It springs me forward to do everything else. It springs me forward to be better to you, to my kids, to it causes me to be the Sheila you see. It springs me. That foundation gives me the push. It gives me the liberty, the freedom, to the courage to face something that's blocking me. So it's a spring for me. Yes.
If a person didn't know what the thing was for them,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't think it was peace, like not because some people like thrive in chaos, but they still
Mm-hmm.
feel that like I feel like I can't breathe, my life is closing in on me. What kind of questions would you ask, or what kind of like steps would you tell somebody to take to help identify that thing with them, or how would you help them see that within themselves?
It would have to be a one-on-one conversation because that's a
Fair.
serious situation. That's
Yeah.
a one-on-one conversation to build the trust for the person to open up enough for me to understand what is the block. What's the blockage, or how did you get there? And I know you want to, yeah, I want to feel this way, but so it have to be one-on-one with kid gloves. You have to handle people very gently and gingerly, right? Because like you said, people operate in chaos a lot, but we still know there's a level of calmness that should be in all of us at some point, because we need to give calmness to our family, calmness to our husbands and wives, calmness to our workers, so we have to shift at some point within, because it's not all about us. So for me,
Yeah.
if someone was talking, or like how the example is, I'd have to have, it wouldn't even have to be an hour. It would just have to be an introduction. Because in that introduction, it wouldn't turn into a session. It would just turn into a conversation and not make a person think, oh, we're in a session. No, it would just be a walk in the park. I used to have
Mm.
kids that, that I would counsel and they were going through whatever, but I said, we're not going to sit in no room. Let's go walk in the park and eat a sandwich. And next thing they said everything. I found out 3 girls in a group when I was dealing with girls in groups. So I write programs for young girls, right? And we was in this group and I kept feeling some 3 girls just by being just chilling, just I call it the wrap out. We sit on the floor on the pillows. I knew what I was doing, but I didn't want them to feel structured. Inside of that
Mm-hmm.
moment, 3 of them admitted that they all were being violated at home.
Mm.
All 3 at one time. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Opening up that like that, what do you do
Yeah.
with that? But it's because I made them comfortable enough to
Yeah.
not feel like I was the counselor. Let's just talk. I'm showing you love. So it's about what you're saying, just making a person, just being a friend, just having a real little conversation and a chat. Because you can't get into a person's heart or mind if they don't trust you.
Fact. That's
They're not going to
absolutely
say
true.
anything. Mm-hmm.
They're going, yeah, they're going to stay clammed up, absolutely, and that's really
Mm-hmm.
insightful. I think a lot of us try to push people to feel comfortable with us and share things with us without having earned that trust, without having shown that
Mm-hmm.
we are actually invested in their themselves as a human being. But I want to ask this last question,
Mm-hmm.
kind of off the topic, because I just want to hear what your
Yeah.
thoughts are. Because again, it came up the gender
Mm-hmm.
space, and you said you've seen some things, you've seen some things, you've heard some things, you've observed. It is these YouTube streets. What is
Yeah.
this general like? What is your impression of
Yes.
the gender dynamics and these panels? What is your just general impression as a person who's observed? Like, oh my, I've had my eyes open. What is it? What is your general impression? And then I will let you go.
Yeah. Well, that's loaded.
I know, but I wanted to go wherever I want to set the cushions out, and I just want you to open
Yeah,
up.
that's loaded. Okay, so from experience, from me, from my experience, and then again, it depends on what platform we're talking about, right? Because I haven't ventured way out deep, 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 right? I haven't gone deep, deep, deep out. I learned a lot about other platforms via hearing the platform I'm on or listening to. But for the most part, the gender thing and the the a lot of people speak from their own experience or what they think. Some think from experience, speak from experience. Some people I find speak from statistics. Some speak from what they heard. Some speak from their judgment. So it's like a plethora. It's like all of these different things. And what I get from it a lot of times is they don't get to, I'm about the root system. They skip over the root system. They skip over, well, if she's that or did that and he's that, how did they get there? Like, what was the trail? How did they get to the point where they lost their way, for lack of a better term, or their modern day? Because that's a whole nother thing. The modern day woman, the
Oh
traditional
yeah,
man, that's a whole nother thing. Is that you or me? That's you.
that was
So
me.
my, my I don't want to say my opinion, my experience is that I think that that it should be more investigation on the human aspect and behavior before talking about certain topics, because you can't blanket a conversation on just points like
Yeah,
somebody's not human. There is a reason why we do what we do. There's a reason how we got to where we are. We traveled from different places, different cultures, different homes. And so we adopted to learn behavior and environmental impact, which shaped us. So the conversations that are going forth, my desire, my hope is that there will become more resolution in what they talk about, opposed to just talking about the sickness, the sore that's under the band-aid. They talk about it, they bring it up, they create, and I'm not, no pun intended, because some of them I get a lot from it because I have to understand different perspectives. Because again, my age is different from these you young folk in the YouTube streets. So I'm being educated on a whole nother environment, to be honest with you. I didn't know a lot about modern day women and the full deepness of what that is and what they say it is. I was like, what? What? I didn't understand when people say you don't need girlfriends. If you married and you have friends, girlfriends, you gotta cut them off. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I didn't some things I just didn't understand. Yeah, cut. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that because my generation of friends and women, I've never had no one speak to my husband or my boyfriends because it was a different grade of women, like our principles and values. Not saying it didn't happen, but some of the things that I've heard, I'm like, okay, if you get married or if you have a boyfriend and girls trips, you can't go on no girls trip. Why? That mean you don't trust me? What is that? What are you saying that you don't trust that when I go, that I'm, even if I'm going with 3 of my friends that what are we going to do? So what are you really saying I am? If I can't move and go to the Bahamas on a little break, me and my 3 friends, what I want to know what the underlying comment, what you saying. And then the thing about when you get married, no, you had no, all those friends that's not married, cut them off. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because those same friends, the one I just told you about earlier, when I was sick and couldn't wash my own butt, excuse my language here because I'm getting kind of yeah. She came to feed me. She paid my bills. She took me to the doctor, told her husband Sheila's sick. He said, go take care of her. So I'm supposed to cut her off when I get married, or I don't understand. See, stuff like that, that's what I'm saying is new. That's new to me.
Yeah.
That's really new to me because that also says to me, well, what kind of friends did a person have that caused them to have to feel like that?
Yeah.
Things, so like I said, this is loaded. We don't have time to chop it up because, and then I've been on platforms where there've been some very good intellectual conversations that not on platforms in the chat where I'm listening, peeping, not peeping, because I'm there. I'm not one of them up in the clouds, like not there. But what I'm saying is I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from your channel. When I sit and listen to you and you have your people on and Ann is on and the other brother, I forgot his name, Yellow. No, is it Yellow? Yeah, him. I sit and I listen to you break down certain things that I wouldn't have thought of like that. But guess what? It's your experience. And so I embrace your experience. That's why I was so thankful that you invited me here, because I was like, somebody want me to come on? I didn't think I was relatable to certain things that's going on in these streets, right? So I really appreciate this conversation. I hope I answered your question because I could have went a little deeper, but I just want the conversations to not be rhetorical and be move the needle. I want some success stories. That's what I want. I want somebody on the channels to say, we've been doing this for 6 months, and I want to reach out to a couple of people that said that they got a lot from this content. I wonder if they can send a letter or they can come up and say, give us a success story. What happened to them while they were listening to us? Where's the success stories? Where's the proof? Or is it just sitting there listening? Where's the paper trail? Where's the goal sheet? How many? One? Find 2, find a female. I listened to you and this was really great. And I really, really appreciate because I was going through something and I heard somebody say something that was on your panel and it shifted me because I was really crying. I was getting ready to delete. I want to hear a success story. If that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I really thank you for giving me this time today. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I can't wait. Dr. Kuno is in the chat. I really want to get into some stuff with the two of you, especially when you guys have the time. I know you have an entire network with a lot of content. I've dropped it in the chat, and I'm going to drop it again. But I also want to make sure that you are able to get out of here and get to your destination. Any final words, Sheila? Please, I'll let you say those things.
Yeah, listen. Oh, I hate when they put the whole thing on me. Okay, so listen, this is what I
I can
feel.
take that.
You can do it. I'm okay with it.
All right, all right, all right.
Um, you can do it. I really love people. I love to see people get whole and complete. I love to see people move from pain to power and from power to victory. Because when nothing changes, nothing changes. And so you have to pivot. You got to make some type of move. Somebody has to move. If you're in a relationship and there's conflict and you're waiting for this one to move or that one to move, don't look at whose fault it is. Don't be the finger pointer. You want change, right? So if you can humble yourself and say, let me just change this, let me just do something, that one move will cause the whole dynamic of a situation to go forward and not be in a broken, stuck place. I want you to be whole. I want you to know that life is short. The clock is tick tock, and we can't get it back. Don't waste time. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your give yourself some time that you give to other people, right? Love yourself and tell yourself, I'm sorry, self. I've been denying you. Go ahead and say it. And I tell you, if you just stop, pause, and reflect, just stop, pause, reflect. Breathe in positivity and mentally see the block and blow that thing out and just on purpose and intentionally work on you. And you'll get to that place called there. I love you so much. Stay well, and I'll see you soon. God bless you.
Oh, thank you so much, Sheila. I'm going to drop you off and then do my
All
housekeeping
right.
stuff, and then I'll head
All
out. But
right.
thank you so
Thank you
much, and
so
I
much.
absolutely appreciate it and loved it. And thank you. I'll see you
Ciao.
soon. Thank you again, Sheila. Everybody, I appreciate y'all so much. I want to let y'all know just quick housekeeping as we wrap up. Again, we had to move the time up. We had a couple things. I and Sheila both have some engagements that were pressing time. I'm actually going to be sorry for bringing the temperature down. I'm actually going to be. I'm about to drive for a funeral, so I'll be leaving. I know that's a weird moment to laugh in. I know that's a weird moment to laugh. I know I'm awkward. I'm weird, but I really hope y'all got something from the conversation. I enjoyed it. I didn't get into as much of the Avengers Thanos stuff, but I really love Bravo with Sheila's perspective. I'm glad Dr. Nakumbe came yesterday. We got to hear a lot of his perspective. I believe they challenge a lot of our conventional thoughts and our I would say the way that we perceive our reality and our feelings. A lot of times we don't give language to things. I think we just feel things. We feel it, we sense it. We have like what we call an intuition. But there's language that has been developed for a lot of these things in spaces like psychology, which is why I really wanted to have some conversations with counselors because some of the things I've heard from the two of them, Dr. Nakumbe, when he talked about the backpack of pain that everybody's carrying, everybody's got a backpack, everybody's backpack isn't full with the same things, but everybody feels the weight of their experiences. Everybody feels those traumas, those hurts, and there's something there. And like Sheila talked about as far as like the way we minimize things that another person has gone through, we don't carry their weight. We don't get to determine how much it hurt them. So there's a lot of things that we do unintentionally a lot of times. We don't know how we impact people to the good and to the bad. So I really enjoy both of these conversations. I really want to have both of them back. We're also going to be doing some different things possibly coming up next Wednesday. So look for me next Wednesday on something. I don't know as far as the conversations. If something comes up, we'll have a conversation Monday, Tuesday. I know I made an agreement with y'all. I made a promise to y'all a while back that I would keep my Tuesdays. I'm breaking that. I don't know that I'll be here next Tuesday. I can't say that for sure. Monday or Tuesday, I will try to keep you posted using the community tab, but assume assume that I'll be back Wednesday, actually in the evening, Wednesday night. So Wednesday night, look for something that's totally different. Me and Yella are working on something, and it's something. All right, me and Yella are working on something, and no, NA, it's not Dr. Phil on you. It's not Dr. Phil and Dr. D. Rashawn Johnson. We're not doing that this Wednesday, but I really appreciate all of you for coming through and supporting. Yes, what a beautiful spirit. Stop, pause, reflect. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Yes, my it's a grandmother, but not like my maternal or paternal grandmother. It's like a grandmother through marriage. But again, it's like, it is what it is. Da-da-da-da-da. Thank you for being so warm and kind in your delivery. You are so on purpose. Yeah, definitely. Her presence is welcoming, warm, and powerful, all in one. So I forgot to put this in there. My bad. Bravo. I'm going to put her channel back in. It's in the description. There's a video that she did on ambiguous loss down in the description. And there it is in the chat. So make sure you go and follow Bravo with Sheila. If you are into the ministry, if you are into the gospel of Christ, she does have that channel as well. And I think it's SI Ministries. That's on YouTube as well. But I just have the one link there for you. Thank you. Great shows. I really appreciate your originality. Thank you. Appreciate that. And actually, I'm going to tell you, there's actually something I want you, maybe, I'm reach out to you. I'll email you. I won't do that just because I saw your name right there. Why not? I don't know. I'm reconfiguring. I'm doing some different stuff. Stop throwing around clinical terms, phobic, narcissistic. Y'all ain't qualified. And I'm going to quit saying delusional. Because Dr. Nakumbe brought that up. You're unrealistic. I can say that. That's something I can say. People are being unrealistic. Thank you. Yeah. And it's weird. It was another ambiguous loss because we call her Grandma Sellers. She was always loving. She loved me and my nephew, but her health declined gradually. Like Sheila talked about today, her health declined so gradually that it was like she was gone without being gone. Like she's been dealing with hospice for months. Like people have been thought she was dying. Like, and it's hard to like ramp yourself up for somebody leaving day after day, week after week, month after month. That's hard, So eventually I had to like kind of cut off my feelings. So it's like, okay, you're gone, and it's weird. It's a weird thing. I don't know how to deal with that. But again, Barbara Sheila talked about this. You have to talk to yourself. What it is that you felt attached to what you lost. And I'm going to miss her kindness. She had a very kind, fond way. And I'm sad that she's gone, but I'm thankful that she's no longer in the state that she was in because she couldn't be herself. And I know it was hurting her, and it was hurting the people around her to watch her deteriorate. So, sorry to end on a morbid note, but I'm trying to be, dry about it. Thank you for the conversation and inviting of your perspective. Much appreciated. And I'll be here visiting, sharing, and support. Hey, appreciate it. And I'm going to try to do the same. I know, again, like I said, I had my pointed criticisms of Black Man Unfiltered and his channel. I want to be there to support you and Mandrell's shows. But I know there are a lot of things going on during the week, so it's been hard for me to catch all, especially Thursdays. Thursday nights, woo! Everybody on y'all's Thursday nights. Brother he said, Mr. She said, be on Harris Tribe. Dr. Nakumbe be on Black Man Unfiltered. Brother Clarence be on Let's Talk to Better Black Life, and that's if nobody else pops up. Yellow's always on. He's like the 7-Eleven sign. He's always lit up. So man, but he's on Twitch. So yeah, Thursdays nights are kind of full. Wednesday night again. Wednesday next week, not tomorrow. Wednesday of next week, me and Yella are trying to do something very different, especially for this space. Something very different. The first one may be terrible. The first one may be absolutely terrible. So if you want to see a train wreck, come next Wednesday. Come see the train wreck Wednesday. But I guarantee you, it'll get progressively better. And if nothing else, it'll be interesting. It's not something brand new, but it's kind of new to the space. So, yeah, come next Wednesday. That's our plan. If I fail on delivering on Wednesday, I'll give you your money back that you gave me today for, when you bought your tickets. I'll give you everything you gave me today. I'll give it right back to you if we don't make it on Wednesday. So your money's, guaranteed. Money guaranteed. So see y'all next Wednesday I almost said for sure. My intention is to see y'all next Wednesday. I appreciate and thank all of y'all for being a part of the channel. I appreciate all of y'all for being in the chat today, keeping the comments going. I appreciate all of y'all for everything y'all have done for me and the channel. Support, encouragement, comments, All of it. Great conversation. A lot to think about. Absolutely. And y'all, if everybody could throw a congratulations in the chat for Inya, who is a brand new editor in chief, not in chief, but she's a brand new editor. Congratulations, Inya, doing big things. People out here making moves. I just wanted to give people their flowers. So Sheila has the Bravo and the Spotlight. So this is going to be me highlighting content creators that I think are dope. And so I'm putting them on the main stage. So today was Sheila. Sheila had the main stage today. So cheers to Sheila. Yesterday was Dr. Nakumbe. He had the main stage. Cheers to you, Dr. Nakumbe. And there'll be more. I want to highlight some people. There are people I want to have conversations with that I just haven't reached out to. I'm not a good reacher outer. That sounds pause worthy. I'm just not good at that. That's a weak point of mine. But I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So if you haven't heard from me, if you haven't been on the channel, I promise you, it's not that I haven't thought about it. There's a lot of people I have, but I don't always have an entry point that what exactly do I want to talk to them about. So there's people I want to talk to, people I want to have on. I just don't necessarily know exactly what I want to talk to them about. But I appreciate all of y'all. Again, next Wednesday, something different, but it's going to be Wednesday night. Wednesday night, it should be fun. So it should be fun. It's not going to be a conversation. It won't be a talk. It won't be a teaching. It won't be a lesson. We should be having some fun Wednesday night, not during the day. But any other streams, keep an eye out for thumbnails, and I'll keep you posted on the community tab. If it's a pop-up stream, you may not get a thumbnail. I may just pop up. But my next show for sure should be Wednesday night. So thank all of y'all. I'm going to head out. I'm not going to play the preacher that starts cussing after Sheila was up here. I'm going to... I need something. I need to end on a positive note. I need to end on a positive note. But thank y'all all for being here, and I will catch y'all next time.